pretty neat to see everyone capturing those historic moments. Pope Francis mixed politics into his address at the White House yesterday, and today, in a subtle and quite a nuanced way, he also touched on many of the most contentious political issues of the day in his address before that joint meeting of Congress. One person with a front row seat to this historic moment, Republican Congressman Peter King of New York, and he's joining me now from the Capitol. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I want to get your take, of course. I just want to get your take on that moment. What was it like to be in there for that historic moment, hearing the Pope speak? Your thoughts?
It was an extremely emotional moment. I was raised a Catholic. I'm a practicing Catholic, went to Catholic schools, and I'm old enough to remember when John Kennedy ran for president and there were people opposed to him, including some religious leaders, and they were saying that a Catholic president would try to sneak the Pope into the United States. And sure enough, there you saw the doors open, and to see the Pope come in with the white vestments and walk down the center aisle of the Congress, and of people of all faiths and ethnic backgrounds and racial backgrounds standing up, men and women applauding him. And basically, he was speaking universal truths. He was speaking as the leader of the Catholic Church, as a leader in the Christian world, but really espousing truths and beliefs and principles that can be shared by everyone. It was just a very, again, uplifting, majestic moment.
And he did, in his way. It seemed to be uplifting. He called for everyone to come together, to work together, and obviously was a pretty strong message to members of Congress.
Yeah.
The Pope, he did touch on, though, he didn't shy away from many of the contentious issues facing Congress right now. Immigration reform, the refugee crisis, those being two of them. He kind of tied them together. What did you think when he said at one point in his speech that we must not be taken aback by their numbers, and then also relating it to the golden rule of do unto others as you would have them do unto you?
Yeah, well, first of all, my main takeaway from all of those issues was the Pope is saying we have to apply a moral dimension to what we do, which means looking beyond the political victories or defeats of the day and realizing that our decisions have consequences. And that's true in any government, but especially in the United States, where we are the world's leading power. Now, in immigration, he was saying don't be afraid of foreigners and look at immigrants as we would look at ourselves, and also at the refugees. Now, again, if there's going to be a difference, I know I was listening to your panel before, I certainly, I'm a grandson of immigrants. I grew up in an immigrant community, and I certainly, when I look at immigrants or refugees, I do see myself. I certainly see my grandparents and uncles and aunts. But again, as leaders in the country, we also have to strike that balance as to having secure borders, making sure the law is observed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have passports or visas. So what I would hope from today, for instance, on immigration, is that if both sides could say, hey, we have to look at this in a moral way, in a humane way, and also in a way that serves the country, if each side could come up with one or two positions on immigration that we could all agree with, start the process going, start going forward. So not having Republicans say everything is amnesty, or not having Democrats basically saying all or nothing. And it doesn't even have to be a comprehensive plan first, but get it started. Start talking civilly to each other. That, I think, would be the right, to me, the best way to go forward and the best way to follow the Pope's teaching. It wouldn't be all that everyone wants, and it may be more than some others want, but as a nation, and we are a divided government, we got to find a way to find some common ground.
And Congressman, in listening to you, I mean, you really, I get the sense that you weren't just there to sit there. It sounds like you were really listening and taking to heart the message that the Pope is trying to give off. I know I'd read that you'd spoken to Politico, especially on the issue relating to the Syrian refugee crisis, also the Iran deal and his position. And you had said to Politico that his opinions there are no more important than anyone else's. And I wonder if his speech today, did it change your impression, especially with regards, let's talk about the Syrian refugee crisis. Did he change your mind any?
Yeah, again, I didn't see the exact quote in Politico. What I have said with the Syrian refugees, no, I mean, it's always, again, anytime you have a man of God in the room, it has an impact. No, but I've followed the Pope's encyclicals carefully. I've read them. I follow what he says. And I don't agree on some of the political decisions he makes, but I certainly agree on the moral component to it. And on the refugee crisis, I think we do have an obligation to let in refugees. I supported the boat people. I supported the Bosnian refugees in the 1990s coming to this country. My concern with the Syrian refugees is whatever we do has to be done in a way where we're not going to be allowing terrorists in, because this is different from previous cases. There are no databases, and we know that ISIS is trying to bring terrorists into Europe and also into our country. So I have an obligation also. The Pope says look out for children. Well, I don't want children at a parade or at a sporting event being blown apart by a terrorist we allowed into the country. That's that balance we have to strike. Those refugees, yeah, we could accommodate a lot more refugees just on the question of numbers. My only concern, the only concern I've raised, is on the issue of ISIS infiltrating those refugees because they're coming from an area where there are no background checks, there are no databases.
So do you, Congressman, do you think there is a way for Congress to, well, just for yourself, to keep with the Pope's teaching and his message from this speech and also keep the border, keep the country secure, keep the children secure that you're talking about?
Yeah, we have to find a way to do it. And I would also say, though, it's not just all on the Republican side, because yesterday when the Pope was at the White House, he was talking about the importance of religious liberty and people being able to espouse their beliefs. Yet the White House sued the Sisters of the Poor. They brought them to court. And they also, yesterday after his visit, my understanding is, to the White House, the Pope unexpectedly stopped to visit the Sisters of the Poor. So I think there's really enough here going both ways. Like, for instance, on abortion and also contraception as far as being required. You know, the Democrats are cheering the Pope today. They're also the ones who say that people who espouse the Pope's positions on that are waging a war against women. Do they really think the Pope is waging a war against women? If we can discuss those issues and throw that other stuff out. Don't be saying you're against women if you believe this, and don't say that you're pro-amnesty or you're pro-open borders or whatever. Let's just try to have it civil on both sides and do it in an intelligent way and also a moral way.
It will be interesting if he can it all shift that conversation, or at least the rhetoric on the conversations around these very political and personal issues. That I think everyone would enjoy seeing, especially from outside the halls of Congress. I do want to get your quick take, finally. Looking ahead, the Pope will be coming to New York later today, and he's also going to be visiting the 9/11 memorial tomorrow. Just your thoughts on his decision to go there.
That certainly is very moving to me, because I lost so many friends down there and so many people in New York did. And that really is an example of the evil we face in the world today. Now people have to stand together. And if I can just inject something in here right now, when the Pope is there, I hope the people in Congress will realize the importance of extending the 9/11 health care bill for the cops and firefighters who are still ill because of what they suffered down there, and also the necessity of us being vigilant, and also never to forget those who died, and to see the evils and the danger of religious extremism. Here you have a tolerant religious leader, and you juxtapose that with the evil jihadists who killed 3,000 innocent Americans that day.
It will be important, and it will be quite a moment having the Pope visit that 9/11 memorial and pray there. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for your time.
Kate, thank you very much.
Thank you. So while the Pope was invited by Republican lawmakers, or the House Speaker, of course, to address